Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Chainsaw. I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
And joining us today for the first time is loyal listener Jules. Jules, say hi to the people out there.
Hello, everybody. This is a dream come true.
We're so happy to have you on. You know, you reached out to us and said that you were a fan of the podcast. Now, you're based out of the UK, right?
That's right. Yeah, I'm in Birmingham, so slap bang in the centre of the UK, and yeah, I travel around all over the place because my job is I work as a stand-up comedian. So yeah, I travel all over the country, and I discovered you guys. Oh gosh, not very long ago, really. Probably about 3 months ago, and wow. I think I've listened to more of the podcast episodes that you have recorded than I haven't, if you know what I mean. So it's it's bordering on obsessive. Really.
Oh, that's so flattering, I have to say. I'm sure you have some very boring nights. They must be especially boring if you're resorting to listening to us.
It's fabulous. It's great. Honestly, I'll be driving down the motorway and, it'll be sort of a 3-hour drive or something. And I'll be thinking, oh God, I just want to get home. And you'll be making me laugh as I'm driving. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it. So thank you so much for the entertainment. It's been an absolute godsend finding you. Seriously, it's been so good.
Well, you're kind. I very much appreciate your kind words, and I'm like immediately charmed by your accent. So I'm blushing. I'm blushing.
That's a brilliant place to start. I'm so pleased. Seriously, this is like a little party for me. I'm all set up. I've got a glass of wine. It's fabulous.
Oh, nice.
I'm just having the best time ever.
It's evening time for Craig, and I've had probably 6 or 7 beers, but that's been over the course of like 7 hours. I just got off a really long board gaming session with some friends. We're really big nerds.
Oh my gosh, you and the board games.
Yeah.
I think, Todd, you may have a problem with board games.
I may. It could be. It could be. Well,
I love that you pick on Todd for the board game situation, but I've just said I've got a glass of wine, and that just gets breezed over. That's fine. That's not a problem.
Are you kidding me? I would bet 50-50 roll the dice that Craig has a mimosa in his hand right now, and it's like early in the morning for him.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's right.
Moving on.
Anyway, well, we were so flattered that you reached out to us and so interested to chat with you. And since you're no stranger to speaking into a microphone for hours on end, we thought it would be lovely to have you on the show and do a movie that you chose. And you chose a few, and I think it was more Craig that was narrowing it down with you, but he and I chatted, and I think we ended up, among the three of us, settling on 2022's Speak No Evil, directed by Christian Tofdrup, I believe, right? It's a Danish movie.
That's right.
And I'm going to butcher all of these Dutch and Danish names 100%. I think one of the reasons we really honed in on this is that it has an American remake coming up this month, in fact. So you suggested it, and I'll tell you right off the bat, I had never heard of it before. And so, of course, I'd never seen it. So I was very interested in checking it out. Craig, had you seen this before? Oh boy.
All right, story time.
What?
I had seen it before, and I remembered it being really dark. I was doing other stuff yesterday, and I didn't really get around to watching it, and I told my partner, Alan, I'm like, you may have to watch this movie with me, and he wasn't happy about it.
Oh.
And then we sat down to watch it together, and we watched the first 10 minutes, and he was like, you've already made me watch this.
Oh, no. Oh, can I apologize to Alan? I feel like I know Alan as well, so Alan, I'm so sorry.
He'll never hear that, but I'll thank you for him.
That's true.
So we had to stop. I was like, oh, I'm not going to make you. And like, I made him kind of prove it. Like, yeah, well, what happens? And he started telling me, I'm like, yeah, I guess I did make you watch it.
You didn't remember,
so
though,
we had to. No, I remembered. I just didn't remember.
I'm shocked.
I probably sold it to him the first time the way that I tried to sell it to him this time too. I'm like, it's not, like a monster movie. It's not that type of horror. It's like a thriller, like a psychological thriller. Because he gets into stuff like that. And it is. So I didn't make him watch it again. But that meant then that I had to get up super early this morning to watch it first thing in the morning.
Oh, so you just came off it fresh.
Yeah. I just finished watching it like a half an hour ago. And yeah, Jules, I'm with you. Like, I had forgotten how dark it was. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. This is horrible.
When you just said that you'd forgotten that you'd seen it, I'm surprised by that, because it's one of those movies that I don't know. I mean, I find that quite a lot of horror movies I'll watch and I'll enjoy them in the moment, and then they're pretty much, they can be a little bit disposable, can't they, sometimes?
Right, right.
This is one of those that has stayed with me, although what I will say is I had forgotten the very, very ending of it. After the brutal scene in the car, after that scene, I'd forgotten that there was another brutal scene after that one, I think, because I was so shocked by the brutality of the first one. So, yeah, but I am surprised that you kind of perhaps you blocked it out because it was just so...
That's what I was going to say. I wonder if it's kind of like selective memory. Like it is... As soon as the movie was over this morning, I felt a little sick. Like, that's terrible. And we've watched and talked about other movies that had a similar effect. Like, it reminded me quite a bit of Funny Games.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Creep a little bit. The Strangers a little bit.
Yes.
Todd, you and I did that movie, Home Movie. Do you remember that one where
with the kids
evil?
Yeah.
It gave me all of those vibes. It was just very dark and very disturbing, and maybe more upsetting than the typical horror movie, because the scenario is something that any normal person could fall into. Now, I wouldn't, because I don't trust or like people. So I would never.
Well, this is kind of
I would
the message
never.
of the movie, I think, isn't it? The message is trust no one. Everyone's an arsehole. Basically, is what this is saying.
I have to tell you, personally, I don't gravitate towards movies like these. I tend to, and this is also where Craig and I differ a bit, in what we have historically watched movies for when we were growing up particularly. We talk about this a lot. Like, I really liked watching horror movies because they were silly, I grew up in the 80s, and we would go to the video store. We would try to pick the worst-looking movies on the shelf so that we could sit around and we could laugh at them. So my expectations were really low. Keeping in mind, also, I really love Halloween. I love being scared. I love going through, haunted houses and things like that. And so I do want to watch movies that scare me. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to be entertained. And horror movies are not something I go to when I want to have to think a lot and come away with this deep message. And so movies like this can go one of two ways for me. Either I feel like they're so mean-spirited and brutal and bleak and nihilistic that you just walk away and you just feel sick and you feel gross. And I don't know, I need to pop in Super Mario Brothers or something like that to cleanse myself of this idea that, the world can actually be a really shitty place for a lot of people, and horrible people do horrible things to each other, and it's not something I necessarily want to be reminded of, let alone in kind of an entertainment form. And so even with the torture porn era and those kind of movies coming out, generally speaking, what you're seeing on screen is pretty brutal and gross and mean, but in general, most of those are still rather silly in their concept or whatever. But these movies, you just rattled them off, Craig, like Funny Games and this and whatnot, they're all too real. I was actually thinking of The Vanishing. Have you guys ever seen that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is The Vanishing, is that the one that was originally French and then there was a remake of it in the early 90s? Is that right? Yes. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
that might have been the first movie I ever watched that was so bleak and had an ending that was dark and didn't turn out well for anyone, that really unsettled me and bothered me. And I was thinking about that a lot when I watched this movie, because once again, it's this case of these people who are on a vacation and they're having a good time, and they just stumble into a situation through, in The Vanishing, it's almost just through no fault of their own. It just, these bad random things happen to people. In this case, like you said, Jules, the message of the movie seems to be maybe we're too trusting of people, and maybe we're trying too hard to be polite. Yeah. And so just to sum up my thoughts, I don't hate this movie then. I don't like a movie that's just mean-spirited and bleak and wasn't that awful. This movie does have a message, as bleak as it is, and it's as troublesome as it is. So I feel like it's a nice bit of art, and there are a lot of nice things you can say about it. Even though I would warn people, if you're already turned off by the topics we're talking about right now, you're probably going to want to give this one a hard pass.
Yeah, I think there's probably something in that. But it is, I think this is such a good example of of people not wanting to offend anybody, you know, and it gets taken to that ridiculous extreme. Because I've read some comments about it online with people saying things like, oh, it's so ridiculous, as if you'd stand for that, as if you put up with people behaving like that. But I think when I read people commenting things like that, it made me think of you know, the theory of if you put a frog directly into boiling water, it will jump out immediately. Of course it will. But if you put a frog into normal, you know, room temperature water and then slowly heat it up, it will stay in the water and die. And it's that kind of idea, isn't it? You know, these people that are the, you know, the baddies, in inverted commas, in the film, they don't start out as being these sort of evil, dreadful people. If they did, if their behavior was at the beginning of the film as it is towards the end of the film, or, you know, certainly when it reaches that climactic point, you'd have run a million miles away. You would have never engaged in conversation with them. But they almost groom, don't they? I guess that's the term. They groom, certainly Bjorn, the main, the father. So I found it a really interesting watch from that point of view, just how much will people take. Although, I'll be honest, there were also times when I was going, don't go back, that's ridiculous.
Oh my God, I know. Okay, so yeah, I agree with you, and I love that analogy. I think I've heard that before, but it does make a lot of sense. But there were just so many points in this movie where I couldn't rationalize it. Like, I can't rationalize why you're saying, just leave. Like, you don't have any connection to these people. It's not even your family. Like, just go. Yeah. Never speak to them again. But like, why is this a problem? But they are strangers absolutely. To you.
You know what, though? I think everyone kind of falls on a different spectrum, and it probably depends on where they've grown up, or, you know, how they were raised or whatever. My family, you know, I had a very idyllic childhood. Both of my parents, we didn't experience real stress. We never had real problems, and we were all have remained a very happy and loving family. And so we have just skidded about life, and most of our encounters are very friendly and normal and happy, and we were raised most of our lives in the Midwest, where everyone is polite to each other. I mean, this is a generalization, but, you know, compared to New York City or something like that, people walking up and down the street, and they say hi to each other, and we greet strangers, we smile at them,
we wave to each other from the car. Like if you pass somebody on, like if you're driving and you pass somebody walking, you wave at them.
It's ridiculous.
We're weird.
And since I've moved abroad, you know, and I've been abroad a couple different times, and I do a lot of traveling, you know, I got to learn that most of the world is not like that. There's a spectrum, but most of the Americans in particular, I think, have a sort of a reputation around the world for being overly friendly, overly sharing of their personal lives and things. You could sit next to a guy on a bus, and we want to start up a conversation with them, and pretty soon they know all about the last 10 years and what we're doing and who our family is and where we've been and all this stuff. And I think people are at best amused by that, at worst turned off and annoyed by it. Like, why in the world are you talking to me? So I get that, and so I kind of put myself in place. And, you know, the Todd of 20 years ago wouldn't have probably acted like this guy 100%, but he was very much of this mindset. You know, I want, and still the Todd of today, really in a social situation wants everybody to be having a good time. And I will take some hits just to make sure that nobody else is offended or nobody else is having a bad time. So I do kind of get how this can happen, and I have only recently come around to this point where I need to be a little bit more like, just like, no, you're a stranger, I owe you nothing, and this is weird, and goodbye, I'm not going to have anything to do with you, and I'm not going to feel bad about saying that.
Yeah, I think I've had very, very similar thoughts and feelings about this movie, exactly what you've just said, really. But I think my issue with it is, like you say, you're happy to take some hits when it's concerning you. You know, if people are having a good time, I don't want to be the party pooper and look like I haven't got a sense of humor or whatever, or I don't want to offend anybody. But as soon as it starts to affect your children, I think that's when, for me, that was the point when I suddenly, you know, I mean, I am a very non-confrontational person. I will do anything to avoid an argument with somebody. I just want to keep people happy. But I think if the kind of situations that arise in the movie happened in real life, I would very quickly learn how to punch somebody in the face.
Yeah. Gosh, I hate to be this guy, but I feel like we need to like give because I want to talk about those things. Like,
we want to talk about the beats
when it starts to affect the kids. I 100% agree, and I want to get there, but I feel like we need to give the setup. Okay, so this normal couple, what are their names? Bjorn and Louise, yeah. And they've got a daughter, Agnes, and they're just on vacation, and they meet another couple about their age who has a kid about their age, and that's Patrick and Karen. And Patrick and Karen seem like normal and fun or whatever, and they have a kid, and the kids hang out together. And when they're done with the vacation, Patrick's like, you guys should totally come visit us. And they're like, okay, whatever. And then they go back home. Bjorn and Louise go back home and tell their friends, yeah, we met this couple, and they're like, you should come visit us, but we're probably not going to. And their friends like, no, you totally should. It'll be great.
Well, in fact, one of their friends says it would kind of be rude not to, wouldn't it? Don't they? At the dinner table.
Right.
Yeah.
And somebody says, what's the worst that can happen? You guys, that is my headspace. My headspace is always, what is the worst that could happen? And that's why I would never do this. I would never, like, I don't care how, like, we click on vacation, we have a great time on vacation, that's great. I am not coming to your house to stay there for several days. It's not happening.
I saw part of one of the trailers for the remake that you mentioned is coming out very soon. One of the actors that was in that, I think it's the lady who's playing the Karen character, and she said, well, I think probably the moral of this film is never hang out with vacation friends after the vacation. Right? Perfect.
I mean, yeah. My point here is that we can delude ourselves in the moment into thinking we know somebody better than we do, or that we are friendlier with them than we do, and that you were so susceptible to that on vacation. You can spend an intense week with a group of people, and you feel like you're best friends, and then when you walk away, you never think of it again, and you realize, I didn't really know anything about those people, and honestly, even the time we had together wasn't that amazing. It was just that we were together for an intense period of time.
My favorite part about it is that you get to like hang out and have fun with these people, knowing that you're never going to talk to them again. So you can just totally be yourself and like be totally.
Or not. You can pretend to be somebody completely different.
Right. Or crazy, which is what this is.
Nice way to bring us back around.
They take their child to go stay at these people's house. And that's another thing. Like, I remember when I was a kid and I would get to go on vacation to like spend a week with my cousins, and we didn't really have anything planned or anything. We would just hang out and ride our bikes and play, and that was great. It was a great vacation. I can't imagine as an adult just going to somebody's house to just hang out.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, I don't know.
But it's another country. Granted, it's only an 8-hour drive, but, they were like, we're going to show you the Danish countryside. Our son is really looking forward to your visit, which immediately sounds like a lie because their son barely talked and was super shy the whole time.
He doesn't talk at all.
Well,
because he has no tongue.
They don't know that at first.
That's true. They find that out later, don't they? I love this as well, by the way. I've been a proper geek about this. He mentions the condition that apparently they say that the child has been born with, and I thought, is it actually real? Is that a condition that exists? And it is. I can't find in my notes now what he says it's called.
Congenital aglossia.
Yeah, that's it. There are only 11 people in the world, recorded people, 11 people in the world living with that condition.
Oh, really?
So that would be a pretty weird thing to go and, just stumble across this family and the child happens to have that. Although, of course, they wouldn't know that at the time. But, I just thought that was an interesting little bit of info. Yeah, well, 11 people in the whole world haven't got a tongue or born without one.
That's crazy. But they don't tell him that at first. And what I really liked about the movie was that it immediately, I mean, you're watching a horror film, so you're immediately expecting to be scared. But I thought the film did a really good job of instilling this sense of dread from the very beginning. Some of that came from the music, and some of that, I mean, having pretty recently reviewed The Shining, I thought this actually copped a bit of style from that, especially in the earlier stages of it.
Yes. Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
That's so true. That journey in the car at the very beginning.
Yeah, the very long still shots that were extremely wide, that didn't move, and mostly it's just nature or, the house and things like that. It was pretty creepy.
Yeah.
It hadn't occurred to me, but I did have something, about the score in my notes, and I hadn't made that connection, but I definitely agree. Sorry, I started talking and then.
Thank you for establishing that. Yeah, that's good.
but I think what bothered me was that I understand that when we meet new people, and especially if we have no connection to them, maybe they say something a little off, and we're just. You'll let that go because who cares, whatever. I just feel like there are so many red flags.
Yeah.
So many. And maybe not. Even though I just watched it hours ago, I don't remember so much if on their vacation there were those huge red flags. But as soon as they go to visit them, then there are.
But they're rather small
at first. The very
first
thing. The mom, well, I mean, they seem nice and hospitable or whatever, but the very first thing that happens is they come, they're like, oh, we cooked you dinner, we roasted a hog. She had made a whole point of she was a vegetarian, and she had explained to them why. It was a whole thing. It wasn't just a casual oh, sorry, I'm a vegetarian, and that's the end of it. No, they had a huge conversation about it, and then she shows up and he's like,
Louise, is this for you?
Oh, no, that's fine.
I insist. I insist.
No. I'll wait till the
It's my favorite part of the roast.
Okay.
It's delicious. It's crispy and soft at the same time.
Yes.
Bert, als ze nou niet wil, joh.
How will I feel?
Het zorgt er in ieder geval voor dat ik jou niet meer nodig heb.
Wat zijn jullie? It's good, right?
Very good.
She just accepts it. She takes hold of the fork and goes, oh, okay, then I'll have some of the wild boar. That, just crazy. I mean, both of my daughters are vegetarian, and if I did that, they'd tell me exactly where to go. If I tried to say to them, oh, here you are, just have some of this roast beef that I've cooked. It won't do. Come on, it's really nice. It'll do you good. They would not stand for that for 1 second. But that was what it did start to annoy me, kind of. And I thought, is that part of the whole message? Are we supposed to feel like that? Are we supposed to be aware that she's not standing up for herself?
Number one, I think this is a cultural thing. The director himself, in some interviews, said that he was surprised that this movie translated across cultures, because he said this is such a thing that we Scandinavians, that we deal with. Dutch, Danish, we are very, very constrained by this polite society. And we are never wanting to step on anyone's toes. I lived in Japan for 3 years, and the same kind of things can happen there. People will acquiesce to things that they are very uncomfortable about doing just because they have been trained, to keep the peace and to not say no. And so...
Listen, that's not... I understand that, in different cultures, you're... But that's not an American thing, too. If I go to somebody's house and they serve me dinner and it's something that I don't like, I will still eat and be polite about it. But if I have told them in advance, I'm a vegetarian and I have specific reasons for being a vegetarian, and then they serve me meat, I'm not going to do that.
That's you, Craig.
Maybe.
That's you.
Todd,
I'm telling you. No.
Seriously?
No, seriously, people will do this.
Really?
People will do this. Yes,
Wow.
they will. And now I don't know why she didn't just pipe up and say, "Oh, don't forget I'm a vegetarian." She probably just could have said those words and whatever. But in the moment, with the chuckling and the insisting and all this stuff, there can be a lot of things going through your head. There can be like, well, maybe he doesn't remember, or maybe then you think, oh God, well, he cooked this whole roast boar and this is all we're going to eat tonight, and then I'm going to spoil the whole thing by speaking up and saying something for it. You can be caught in this kind of position. Now, you or I probably wouldn't do that. But I am telling you, especially in some cultural situations, it would be, again, it's so against your training that you just might just go along with it, take a little nibble, or just pretend like you ate a little bit at the end or something like that. But what's going on here really is that these people are being tested. By the end of the movie, I was like, why did all this happen? And there's an answer, and I think we're going to get to it. But what becomes obvious is they are being tested. These are just a series of because they could just take this couple, you're at our house, put plastic bags over their head and do what they're going to do with them. But you don't know if they're going to put up a fight. You don't know if what they're going to do. It's so much better to do this grooming and to do this testing so that you know what you're getting into. And I think that's what's happening here.
And I think they enjoy it as well, don't they? I get the impression that it's part of their game. It's something that they like to do. It's their hobby almost, isn't it? So, very strange.
And also there's this other dynamic too, right? There's the husband and wife dynamic. And I think what is very clear from the beginning, before they even go to that house, is that Bjorn is a little unhappy. He's kind of got this longing for the simple life. He's very taken by Italy, by their time there in Tuscany. He's like almost crying at the girls singing and looking around, and he sees Patrick kind of raise his glass like, "Hey, buddy, I'm enjoying this too," from across the way. Yeah. And then back in the city, he's distracted when he's at the apartment, and you can see him staring out the window, and the parallels are obvious. He's looking out the window, and he's like, "This isn't Tuscany." So he's kind of wants to get into this. And he kind of wants to, he's got this appeal of this remote place out of nowhere and these people who seem to live this simpler life and are very easygoing. And then, now you have this husband and wife dynamic. Maybe the wife isn't quite like that, but because the husband kind of is, he's kind of like, "Oh, go ahead, go with it, honey," and they can't argue in front of the guy. And so, that's happened before.
Yeah.
In any relationship. So
that's interesting that you've interpreted it like that, because I interpreted Bjorn as being incredibly bored with his life. I felt that he was sort of in that. I think we all go through it at some point, when you realize, adult life can be so monotonous and, responsibilities. And there's that brief moment when they go back home after the Italian holiday and Louise is saying, "Oh, Agnes needs some new shoes. What do you think of these shoes?" And shows them a picture. And, "Oh, and she's going to need another little jacket as well. I think I might order her one of those." And that's when he's looking out of the window. And I imagine him just being so bored. And then later on as well, when he's in the car talking to Patrick and he starts describing, well, Patrick is describing, "Oh, I get this feeling inside that I can't express and I need to let this thing out of me." And what he means, of course, is because actually I'm a serial killer. And Bjorn interprets it as, well, this feeling, there must be more to life, that kind of thing. Because I was watching, I felt really sorry for Bjorn, but I kind of wanted to say, "Oh, mate, do you know what? Just have a quick affair or something. It'll be fine. just get it out of your system.
I feel sorry for him in this situation because this is a terrible situation that he finds himself in with his family. But I don't feel sorry for him for his life, and I really kind of hate this trope of people who are in long-term relationships, like, "Oh, I'm so bored and I need something else." Oh God, like,
I know. It's like
you can be in a happy long-term relationship.
You can be, but I mean, it's not necessarily just a trope, Craig. It does happen to people. Just because you're happy.
I understand. God, I understand. It just bothers me. Like, and that scene that you were just talking about, where they're talking together in the car, I 100% thought that they were gonna fuck. Like,
they did look at each other with some wistful eyes.
I didn't think that. My mind didn't go that way.
Oh my God. I thought that Patrick was going to whip his dick out and they were going to go to town.
That would be a whole other movie. I feel
That's the way you wanted it to go, wasn't it?
I don't know. Like the bad guy is like,
You know, sometimes I have this thing right here. And it's so powerful and wild. And I like it. That's the weird part. I really like it. You understand?
Yeah,
You do?
totally. Normally, I just try to hold it down or keep it in chains.
Why?
I don't know why. Too many rules, I guess. It's
what?
Yeah, I don't know. It's claustrophobic, you know? It's like I become this person that I don't want to be.
yeah, you know what you're supposed to do, but don't you just ever want to do what you're not supposed to do? Like, I think I've seen this movie. Gosh. But I get it. You know, whatever. I would never do it, but they do. They go and they spend some time at the house and like everything's okay for a while, but then everything's weird. Like that's my problem with it. Like there are just so many red flags, and beyond that, even when they start to recognize the red flags, they leave and then come back and stay.
That made me so angry. But I got it. I did not think, look, you can look at it one way and say, I would never do that. But it doesn't mean that it's unrealistic. I think these people would do it. I don't think they were unbelievable characters. Because it's not like all these red flags all the time and they're so severe, you know? The first thing that really happens is when they're out in the fields and Abel's sitting on the slide and Agnes wants to slide down. There's a language barrier. The parents all talk English to each other, but it seems like the kids can't quite, I don't know what it is. But anyway, one speaking Dutch, one speaking Danish. Louisa asks Patrick, hey, you know, could you maybe tell Abel to get off the slide so that she can go down? And he stomps over there and yanks him off the slide quite forcefully. It's like, apologize to her and whatnot. Now, she's a bit rough with him. And this is the first time they've ever seen these parents deal with a kid who has an issue or something like that. And, you know, I've been in situations like that where I've seen some parents and their parenting style is not something that I agree with. But to me, that's not like, oh, these people are weird. It's like, oh, I don't agree with this parenting style and it's making me uncomfortable and I wish they would stop. But
Fine. But do you want to be friends with them? Do you want to go stay at their house?
Well, if I'm already there and he's a little rough with the boy and you're just like, no, you don't need to be.
All right,
it's okay. You know, like whatever. And then.
Yeah, I don't question people's parenting styles either. That's not my place. I understand that.
The part that bothered me, the part where I thought, oh my God, what is going on here, is later that night, Louisa expresses her feelings to Bjorn. She's like, I don't really feel comfortable here. And at first he feels like, well, he's listening to her, but he's like, well, maybe we can just manage it for another day and a half. What's the harm? And then almost immediately the next day in the morning, the woman comes in, or might even be the next minute, the woman comes in, Karen, and says, hey, we would like to take you out to our favorite restaurant here in town. And they're like, oh, that's great. And as she leaves, Bjorn kind of looks at Louise and's like, so unpleasant, that woman, huh? Like, you really think this is a big deal? But then that night, as they're getting ready to go, a guy shows up, and it's the surprise babysitter.
This was the moment for me.
Yeah.
This was the moment when I thought, no, okay, that's it now. No.
Not
Surely
doing
they're
this
not
shit.
going to do this.
Not
They're not
doing
going to
this.
say, yeah, okay, we'll leave our child with this man we've never met in our lives before.
Doesn't even speak English. No way.
That's hilarious to me.
No
That's hilarious to
way.
me because my parents so would have done that. Like if their friends had hired a babysitter and we were just going to be there, that would be fine.
They're friends.
Not a problem.
They're friends, but like
although,
they're
I
people
guess
they
it's
just
different
met.
if it's- Exactly.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, he seemed nice. I mean, like how much do you vet a babysitter, really? I mean, like he seemed
A lot.
Oh, well, I don't have kids. You're
had a
right.
different
I would, but no, like my parents were young. They were in their 20s. I was a kid and they wanted to. My parents are middle America people and they're not wild at all. When I say they wanted to go out, like maybe once in a while they wanted to be away from their children. If that meant that they had to hire a college student that they'd never met before, I'm sure it'll be fine.
I get
it'll be
that.
fine.
It just felt a bit different that obviously they didn't know these people at all, and you're just taking somebody's word for it that you've only known really for a matter of hours, and saying, okay, that'll be okay.
What bothered me is that Agnes's parents, obviously you can see in their performance that they're hesitant, they're reluctant, something doesn't feel right. And they keep going along with it anyway.
Yep.
And that's true for most of the movie. And I get that. Honestly, guys, I'm a very antisocial person. I just am so happy to just be by myself in my house because I'm crazy. But I get it. Like a rational person would normally, you give people the benefit of the doubt. But to what extent? And I just can't imagine as those parents, they obviously sense that something is wrong and they continue to sense it.
Yeah.
But they continue to stay.
They do, but they're 1 foot out the door. I mean, this is where it starts to really ratchet up. Like up to this point, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But then at the dinner, Patrick gets suddenly weird and confrontational about her vegetarianism.
And remember, I'm a vegetarian.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I don't eat meat.
Oh, yes, so good for the environment. Yes, but you eat fish, right?
Yes.
Yes, so you're not a vegetarian, you're a pescatarian.
Yes.
Yes. And fish is not meat?
Of course. But it's better for the environment.
And the way the fishing industry works and how we treat the oceans is not affecting the climate?
And they're at this quiet restaurant that's totally just them. It's not really even a restaurant. It's more like a bar with some tables. Louisa's getting drunk. They get up and dance and start making out. And at first, Bjorn and Louisa are like, well, maybe we should get up and dance too. But then the other couple just starts going to town on each other. Mm-hmm. And it's just making them so uncomfortable. And then when they go to leave, Patrick looks at the bill and is like, well, somebody had a good time tonight.
Yeah, I am out. I will pay that bill. I will pay that bill, and I am out. We're done.
So
thank you.
Much. I thought exactly that. That would be the moment, wouldn't it, where you would go, right, okay, literally, you have really crossed the line now. Things can't get any worse. Well, surely.
They're driving drunk, and their music's loud, and they won't turn it down, and they're being rude. And it wasn't
rude.
That was it for them. She takes a quick shower, and it seems like Patrick has come into the bathroom and is peeing while brushing his teeth while she's taking a shower. She comes back, and they all agree. They both agree. We are leaving. So they get in the car and they go. And to me, this was like, if this movie had gone any other way, this is like they didn't pass the test. These couple did what they could to ratchet up to 1,000% to see what would make this couple break. This made them break, and they left. And then, like you knew was going to happen, as they're driving away, this girl who we've already established loves her rabbit more than anything, and the dad is like a little hero for going and fetching it whenever she loses it. She's left her rabbit. Oh, my God. I was thinking,
my God.
You remember Burnt Offerings? I was like so Burnt Offerings.
Yes.
Like, just go. Keep driving. You will get a new rabbit.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
Don't go back. Yeah.
So stupid. And then when they go back, like it turns out that the rabbit was in the car the whole time.
That was so
dumb.
so cruel for the audience. I felt so mad at the director for that.
Yeah.
And then they're back, and the husband goes in and is like, sorry, we left. And the bad dad is like, oh, good. I just hate that you didn't think we were good hosts.
Yeah, he does that so well. I thought that was brilliant.
And the wife does too. She's like, I'm sorry, our house isn't a mansion, and we really thought you'd be comfortable. Like, fine, I get it. Who cares? Leave.
No.
Send them a nice email. Come on.
I've written in my notes here, I've just made myself laugh. I've written in my notes that the part where when Louise is in the shower and Patrick walks in and he's brushing his teeth, I've written, am I a victim blamer? Because I was really angry with her in that moment.
Oh, yeah.
I thought she doesn't even have to, you wouldn't have to be aggressive about it, but you could just kind of go, oh, hi, did you know I'm here? I'm in the shower. Are you all right to give me a couple of minutes? You know? But she just kind of stands there and freezes in the shower. And I thought her husband's literally just over the way. So just say, oh, mate, I'm just here. Can you give me a minute? But then, no, and then to choose to go back for a cuddly toy. Oh, no, this was when I started to really feel, as I say, a little bit. And I did think, am I a bad person? Am I victim blaming? Am I saying they're asking for it? What am I dreadful? But it's that
they're
whole
not
thing
asking for it.
about ratcheting it up really slowly, isn't it? Bit by bit, these people kind of fall into the trap.
They're not. I don't think they're asking for it, but they're stupid. There's no reason for it. Like, and so many things happen. Like, these people become obviously abusive to their own child who doesn't speak because he doesn't have a tongue. Then I'll just gloss over the point that the bad dad watches the nice couple and and the good dad sees it and just doesn't say anything.
That's bizarre. That's so weird. And that was just after the shower scene as well. She just got out of that shower, obviously feeling really quite understandably creeped out by it. She gets into bed with her husband and starts making out with him. That felt a bit weird to me. I wasn't sure what was going on there, but okay, no judgment.
I mean,
no, it's fine.
To be fair,
they can have sex if they want. That's fine. But you are in somebody else's house. Honestly, this house seems super small, so it seems like all of the rooms are kind of connected, and everybody can hear what's like. I don't know. Maybe calm down, but whatever. That's fine. But when you see the grosso dad watching you,
I mean,
and you're just like, whatever, that's cool.
He glanced in as he walked by in the hallway. He wasn't like he was standing there forever.
He was standing there. He only walked away. He only walked away.
He made eye contact and walked away.
Yes. He only walked away because the guy saw him.
Well,
he was standing there watching them.
Yeah, okay. Well, this was also the same point at which the girl was trying to get into the bedroom.
Yes.
So her timing was poor. So obviously, Patrick would be up because he was, what we find out, he got the girl, he got Agnes. The mother, after they're done banging, gets up and is looking for Agnes, and she's not in her bed. And it turns out she's laying in bed with the other couple. And
naked.
He's naked, yeah. He's naked, yeah.
That's not okay.
No, it's not okay.
Like that's
but this is the
point. I feel like that's the thing that pushes them over the edge. Where they're like, we really have to go.
This was it.
And they do, and thank God they do. But then that goddamn bunny, and they come back.
No.
Am I going backwards?
You're going backwards. Yeah, you're going backwards. This is when, No, they decided they were definitely going to go. But then there's shit happening with Patrick and Abel at night. Bjorn confronted Patrick about the bed thing. Patrick tried to make him feel guilty about it. Like, well, your daughter was crying. Where were you? But then, some stuff happens with Patrick and Abel at night. Bjorn can hear them kind of yelling and arguing, doesn't really understand. And at this point, you can see it on his face. He's like, we're going to leave, but it almost feels like this kid needs rescuing.
Yes.
And so he gets up and he follows Patrick. Well, he kind of wakes up and walks around, and he sees Patrick kind of go out to the garage, sort of follows him out and around, and he finds camera equipment inside that's like a shed or something. And there's a staircase up the stairs. And when he gets to the top of the stairs, he sees all along the walls all of these many photos of them posed with families, much like the photo that this family had sent them after their vacation in Italy. And what he notices is that in each of these photos, it's like they've kid swapped. There's a photo of them with this other family and their kid, and now they have that kid, and he immediately knows what's going on. He goes downstairs and he wanders out to where I guess is another building where the pool was, right?
Yeah.
They have kind of an indoor-outdoor pool. And this was the part that really turned my stomach, was when he walked into that pool and saw Abel floating face down.
Yes.
It was horrifying.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I knew what was going on. I knew these people were crazy. I knew that they were grooming or whatever their victims. I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but to see them posed with all of these other families with their, at the time, child, and then, the victim parents with their child, they're just doing this. It made me sick. And then I really think that the most shocking thing from this movie, despite the fact that Abel, or whatever the kid's name is, has been kidnapped and tortured and blah, 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 to see him floating dead in the swimming pool really, really upset me.
Yeah, it is. That's upsetting, isn't it? It is a really upsetting moment. But I thought that the actor who plays Bjorn, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Didn't you? Because all the way through the movie, I've been so frustrated with him, so annoyed by him, and then to see his facial expression, you see the penny drop when he's looking at the photographs, and you think, thank God, okay, now he's going to leave, and then he's confronted with that horrific moment of seeing this poor little boy floating in the pool. And I just thought that actor was so good. Yeah, I thought his facial expressions were absolutely spot on. So horrific scene, but absolutely brilliantly done, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was brilliant throughout.
I think that
so amazing.
Yes, agreed. I think that the acting in this movie is fantastic. I think this is a really good movie. I think that it is beautifully shot. I think that the acting is fantastic. It's very suspenseful. Going in, if you don't know what you're getting into, it's shocking, and there are a lot of twists. Like, I think it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I suppose
to watch.
It is very difficult to watch.
Yeah.
Because and I think for me the reason that it's difficult to watch is because, as antisocial as I am, I could potentially find myself in a situation like this, that I've tried to be nice and now I don't know how to get out of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Ultimately, I think that that's what the big struggle is. Like, they try to be nice and they're trying to get out of it, but they don't know how. And then in Act 3, it turns into something totally different, where these people are, in fact, psychopaths. They are doing this, apparently, systematically. God.
And we don't know why.
Like,
we never find out.
We don't know why. Yeah. No. And, like, is it just them? I did read that they had initially intended to, the finale was supposed to be larger, that, like, it was, like, supposed to be like a religious sect that was sacrificing people. And
I'm glad they didn't do that, though.
Yeah, me too.
Me too. I am too.
Yeah.
I prefer that it's just these crazy people.
Yes. The fact that it's meaningless makes it more horrific, doesn't it? I mean, obviously it's horrific anyway, regardless, but the fact that there is no real motivation, no real purpose, it just is. That's what's really scary, I think.
Well, and that's why I said in the beginning, I listed all those movies that it reminded me of. The reason that I included The Strangers is because there's such a similar line. In the very end, one of them says, "Why are you doing this?" And the bad guy says, "Because you let me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, that's so crazy, but at the same time, I'm like, I would not have put myself in that position. I feel bad for you, but don't put yourself in that position.
Especially, obviously, on the rewatch, I thought there are so many moments where you go, okay, if you just stopped now, if you turned around now, everything would be okay. No, you're going to keep going for a bit. Okay, well, if you stop now, that was a bit horrible, but it will still be okay. You know, there's so many, there's probably about 10 moments where they could have taken the opportunity to go, do you know what? That's just gone one step too weird. We're going to go home. But they don't. They
almost
just keep rolling with it.
They almost get away so many times.
Right.
Yeah.
And you still feel like they could have. And there were so many moments when they could have, but they were so paralyzed and so inactive.
Yeah.
Basically, they get in the car, they take off, they have car trouble, so of course they got to stop. And like an idiot, he says, "You guys wait here, and I'm going to go up to the house."
Yeah.
Oh, don't do that, you know? So, of course, he goes to the house. There's nobody there. When he comes back, the Patrick and Karen are right there, and they've already brought the girl and the mother into the back seat and told them that Patrick called for them. And he's standing outside the car, and
Stop listening if you
if you don't want to be disturbed. Bjorn says to Patrick, like, "Please don't hurt my family." And Patrick lies to him, and he says, "Everything will be fine as long as you do exactly what I say." By the way, everybody out there, that is never true.
No.
That is something people say. It's never true. So he goes in and he continues to be compliant. He doesn't turn around and shout something's wrong. He doesn't reach over. Patrick even tests him one more time by pulling over to the side of the road and taking a piss, leaving his keys in the car.
God.
He could have leapt over there. The movie is just hammering this point home that evil exists in the world, and sometimes it's able to be successful because we literally just stand by and do nothing, even when it's in our own best interest. And it's frustrating to see him do this, and then they drive all around, and then they stop because they're clearly not going to the house. And the most heartbreaking part of this whole movie for me is when the mother and the girl are getting scared, and in the back, and the girl's like, "Mommy, I'm scared." And she pulls her to her and says, "Honey, you know what Mommy's always told you. Nothing bad can happen to you while Mom is with you."
Yes. Oh.
And 2 seconds later, something bad happens to her.
She gets her tongue cut off.
And dragged away forever.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. That part is just... Oh, I could feel that in my stomach. Just that, you know, literally having a child dragged away from you.
And don't tell your child.
And it's the babysitter. It's the babysitter. We knew. Don't trust the babysitter.
He was bad.
Oh my God.
That part killed me too, because I feel like when Agnes was ripped away from her mother died in that moment. Like, for the remainder of the film, she wasn't even there. She didn't care.
They gave up.
She was done. She was done. I think that the dad, and God, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen this movie, I really you should watch it. Like, stop now and watch it. It's great. But I was just so I just felt so sad at the end. It felt so tragic. And they take those people, the nice couple that we like, they take them and they force them to strip.
Yeah, so there's more humiliation on top of the heartbreak and on top of the dreadful things that have already happened. They take it even further. It's just so horrible.
Right. Just your humiliation, degradation.
Yeah.
Could only just say, "Go here, and then we're going to stone you to death."
Yeah.
I have never in my life, I think, seen, I don't know, maybe some religious movie like Passion of the Christ that I've blocked out. I don't know, but I've never seen somebody stoned to death.
Oh yeah, it's brutal.
And to see these two people who are scared and defeated. I mean, they're defeated. It's over, and they know it. Mm-hmm. To see them just cling to each other and then be brutally stoned to death. It's sick. It's disgusting, and it was so hard to watch. And then the credits just roll, and my jaw is just on the floor, like, what? What did I just watch?
Who is this strange British woman who's made me go through this experience?
No, I was like, who is this team of people who's investing time and money into remaking this for an American audience? I was like, what the hell?
Gosh.
What are they thinking?
I'm really interested to see it.
Yeah, did you all read that whoever, the money behind this movie, wanted them to film alternate endings because they didn't feel like the audience would be satisfied with this ending. So they wanted it to be a lot of different people executing people, or they wanted there to be some explanation behind why these people were torturing these other people.
Yeah.
And ultimately they just didn't do it. So I'll be very interested to see in the remake if they stick with the really, really bleak nature of this, or if they do something different. I have no idea.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting, because I think one of the reasons that this film was so unsettling and upsetting is precisely for that, isn't it? As we said earlier, that the fact that you're not given a reason. We're not told, what these horrible people's childhood was like, or what it is, that how their brain is wired wrongly so that they behave in this horrible way. They just are almost the epitome of evil, really. They're just bad people, and it's really difficult to have to think about that, isn't it? We even when dreadful things happen in the real world, one of the first things we ask is, why did they do that? Not that it makes the actions any better, but at least we can start to try and gain some sort of insight into what that person's source of thinking was. But yeah, this kind of, I will be interested to see if the remake, because I presume the remake will have had a much, much bigger budget, and yeah, they're going to have to, obviously, they're going to want to sell tickets. So are they going to do it so that it's got a happier ending, and the good guy wins out? I'm really interested to see how they'll do this.
God, I can't even imagine.
James McAvoy, I think, is playing the Patrick, the bad guy.
I love him.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant actor.
Yeah.
What Split, I think, was the M. Night Shyamalan movie that he did.
Oh, right.
That's
brilliant.
That guy. He's fantastic.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
He is an amazing
He's
actor.
got eyes that just... he can do this thing where and I don't know if you've watched the trailer for the remake of it, but his eyes are amazing. He's got this look, hasn't he, of you don't know what I'm going to do from one second to the next. He's absolutely brilliant. But because he's such an attractive man, you sort of he's perfect for playing that kind of person that can lure you in and then just kind of completely turn into something different. Yeah, I don't think I've seen James McAvoy in anything that I haven't enjoyed, and it's largely down to his performance. I just think he's excellent.
Well,
brilliant.
I 100% agree, and I think that he'll be great. This seems like a great role for him.
I think he's got.
So I'm looking forward to it.
I think he's got big shoes to fill, because I thought the original actor, Fedja Von Hewitt, was
absolutely,
incredible. Did you know, by the way, he's married to the actress who played his wife in the movie, Karina Smulders. He has a very, very, very long and accomplished career from the Netherlands. He's just he's been in a lot of movies, and he's apparently very well respected and loved. I just, I don't see enough of him because I don't watch a lot of foreign films. I only see what kind of happens to come past me. But I had a pretty good time reading up on him and going back and looking at some clips of some of the other stuff he's done. He's brilliant, and he really pulled this off well.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the cast in general were fab, weren't they? They were just great, really good.
100%. I thought they were fantastic. The woman who is his wife and played his wife, I thought she was spectacular. I thought they were all great. Everybody did a great job. Todd and I, when I told Todd that we were going to do this movie, I said, it's so weird to me that there's going to be a remake because this movie just came out in 2022.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, and it's an English language film. I had forgotten that it's not entirely English language. But I still find that a little bizarre. Like, why are we remaking movies 2 years later? It just came out. thing.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I hope they do keep that sort of understated vibe to it. But the more we talk about it and the more, as you say, it's only 2 years later, makes me wonder if they will completely change parts of it so that it's not quite so understated and it has got that more sort of big budget, I don't know, slightly more action horror feel in places to it, you know? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll watch it. I don't.
Yeah.
I might see it in the theater, or I might wait until it comes out on streaming. But I'll definitely watch it, and maybe then you can watch it too and come back and talk with us again.
Yeah, that would be quite nice.
Because this has been great. Like, oh man,
it has been so much fun. I can't begin.
It's so nice. It's so nice when people reach out to us. I told Alan this morning, like it was right before I was getting on, like 20 minutes before I was getting on. And I said, there's a woman in London who is excited to talk to me.
I'm as shocked as you are, Craig, honestly.
and here I am in my little tiny modest house in middle America, Missouri, and I'm like, there's somebody out there in the world who is excited to talk to me, and that just makes me feel really, really good.
You have no idea. Talking to the two of you it's been the highlight of my year, honestly. And the fact that you're mentioning Alan to me as well, and Alan knows who I am. That's amazing to me.
He does. He's like, oh, are you recording with the comedian today? I'm like, yep.
Love Alan. Love him for that.
Tell us about your podcast. You've got one as well, don't you?
Yeah, I have a podcast. My podcast is called Avoid Excessive Cleavage, and it's named after the title of my comedy show, which is, the full title of my comedy show is Avoid Excessive Cleavage and Other Advice to Ignore. And the reason that it's called that is because I am a woman of a certain age, and once you get past around about the 40 mark, you seem to just be given so much advice about what you should and shouldn't wear, how you should and shouldn't behave, things you should and shouldn't do. And I just got a little bit tired of it. So I did a whole show about aging and how you should just own it and be happy and have a great life no matter what age you are. So I ran with that, and my podcast is also based around that idea of kind of, who cares how old you are, just live your life and have fun. So yeah, that's what my podcast is all about. Thank you.
It.
Fantastic.
Gonna have to get listening to that. And so if we just search for that name, we can find it.
Avoid excessive cleavage, guys.
Wonderful. Oh, well, I'm not going to take that advice, but I happen to have a fondness for excessive cleavage myself, so
Other advice to ignore, 100%.
There you go. I will take.
I should have called it. Get your cleavage out and then have a great time. That's all good. Yeah.
Then I'll take your advice. That's wonderful.
No, it's been fabulous. I've absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for having me on here, guys. It's been fabulous.
Thank you for coming on. It's been lovely chatting with you, and thanks for the recommendation for such a good movie. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jules. Thank you all out there for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please reach out to us as well. You can just go onto our website and click Talk to Us, where you can record a little voice message. You don't have to have any special software or anything installed. You just send that straight to us. We love to hear from you. If you don't have to do that, you can also just shoot us an email or find us online at Facebook or Twitter or our Instagram channels. Just search for Two Guys in a Chainsaw Podcast, and you'll track us down there. If you really want to get deep in the weeds and become a part of the party, join our patrons at patreon.com/chainsaw podcast. We have a lot of fun behind the scenes and a lot of chatter going on there as well. Until next time, I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
And I'm Jules.
With Two Guys in a Chainsaw.